The alarm bells rang across the Galactic Council chambers for the third time this month. Nari watched the massive holographic display show another star system going dark. Red warning symbols spread across the galaxy map like a disease. The Kepler 442 system has gone silent, announced the tall, blue-skinned council speaker. His voice carried no emotion, but Nari could see the fear in his large black eyes. That makes 17 systems lost to the void sickness in the past week. Nari sat in the observer section, wearing her best diplomatic uniform. As Earth's representative, she had been trying for 2 years to get humanity accepted into the Galactic Council. Every meeting was the same. The aliens would listen politely, then tell her that humans were too young and not ready for galactic civilization. Today felt different. Today, they looked scared. The council speaker continued his report. Our best scientists cannot find a cure. The void sickness turns entire planets into empty rocks within days. It spreads faster than our ships can travel. We estimate that 1/3 of the galaxy will be infected within 6 months. An insect-like alien with 4 arms stood up. What about evacuation? We could save some populations. Impossible, replied a floating jellyfish creature. The sickness spreads through space itself. Any ship that enters an infected system becomes a carrier. We have lost 12 rescue fleets already. Nari felt sick to her stomach. Billions of people were dying, and these advanced aliens had no answers. She thought about the human colonies on the outer rim, far from the infected zones. For once, being ignored by the galaxy might save them. The council speaker raised his hand for silence. The inner council has made a decision. We will establish quantum barriers around all infected sectors. No ships will enter or leave these areas. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Nari stood up without thinking. You cannot just abandon them. The entire chamber turned to look at her. She felt her face burn red, but continued speaking. There are billions of people in those systems. They are still alive, still fighting. How can you just give up on them? The council speaker's expression did not change. Human representative, you do not understand the situation. The void sickness cannot be stopped. If we do not contain it now, the entire galaxy will die. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. That is easy to say when you are not the few being abandoned, Nari shot back. An alien that looked like a walking tree spoke up. The human makes an emotional argument, but emotion will not save the galaxy. Logic demands sacrifice. Nari wanted to argue more, but she knew it was useless. These aliens had made up their minds. She sat down and watched as they voted. The decision was unanimous. 1/3 of the galaxy would be sealed off and left to die. Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim territories, Hyunwoo was studying water samples on the human research ship Soul's Pride. The ship was small compared to the massive alien vessels, but it was fast and well built. Hyunwoo had been collecting data on space bacteria when the emergency message came through. All human vessels are ordered to return to Earth space immediately, the message said. The Galactic Council has declared 1/3 of the galaxy a dead zone. Any ship entering these areas will be considered lost. Hyunwoo stared at the message in disbelief. He called up a star map and marked the dead zones in red. Entire civilizations lived in those areas. The Zentari, who had taught humans how to build faster ships. The Mollis, whose poetry was famous across the galaxy. The Corvin, who had shared their farming techniques with human colonies. All abandoned. Captain Taemin entered the lab, his face grim. Did you see the news? How can they do this? Hyunwoo asked. These are the same aliens who told us we were not civilized enough to join their council. Now they are abandoning billions of their own people. Taemin sat down heavily. The quantum barriers are already going up. Long-range sensors show massive energy walls forming around the dead zones. Nothing gets in or out. What about the refugees? People trying to escape? That is the worst part, Taemin said quietly. Any ship that comes from an infected zone is turned away. The council fears they might carry the sickness. They are not even allowing rescue missions. Hyunwoo felt anger building in his chest. He had always admired the aliens' advanced technology and ancient wisdom. But this was not wisdom. This was cowardice. Sir, I request permission to take a small team toward the barrier zones, Hyunwoo said. Someone needs to study this void sickness. Maybe we can find something the aliens missed. Taemin shook his head. Too dangerous. Earth Command has ordered all human ships to stay in safe space. Safe space, Hyunwoo repeated bitterly. Safe because we are so far from the galaxy's center that nobody cares about us. For once, being ignored might save us. Over the next few days, the barriers went up. Massive walls of energy surrounded the infected sectors, glowing red against the black of space. No signals came from inside. The 1/3 of the galaxy was gone, as if it had never existed. Nari returned to Earth with the worst news in human history. The species they had hoped to join had proven themselves capable of monstrous abandonment. In the council chambers, aliens spoke of logic and necessary sacrifice. But Nari had seen the fear in their eyes. They were not making hard choices. They were running away. The human government called emergency meetings. Military leaders wanted to prepare defenses. Scientists wanted to study the barriers. Philosophers debated whether humanity should still seek council membership. But in the outer colonies, something else was happening. Refugees were arriving. The first ship appeared near the colony world of New Busan. It was barely functioning, held together with emergency patches and powered by dying engines. Inside were 17 Zentari survivors, including a scientist named Veltar. They told a story that made Nari's blood run cold. The void sickness was not natural. It was a weapon, created by an ancient civilization as an act of revenge before they died out. The weapon was designed to target advanced, stable species. It turned their own perfection against them, and it was spreading beyond the barriers. The Galactic Council's great solution was failing. The energy walls could not hold back something that moved through space itself. The aliens had doomed themselves along with those they abandoned. But in the refugee camps on human worlds, a different story was beginning. Species that had never spoken to humans before were coming to them for help. Not as superiors speaking to primitives, but as desperate people seeking shelter. For the first time in galactic history, the advanced aliens needed something from humanity. They needed hope. The refugee ship crashed on New Busan during the night shift. Ji-hoon was drinking coffee in the colony control center when the emergency alarm started screaming. The ship came down hard in the southern valley, leaving a trail of fire across the dark sky. Get the rescue teams out there, Ji-hoon ordered. As colony administrator, he had dealt with ship crashes before, but never anything like this. The vessel was alien design, but not from any species he recognized. It looked like someone had built it from spare parts and prayer. The rescue team reached the crash site within an hour. They found 43 aliens inside, most of them injured. Ji-hoon had never seen anything like them. They were tall and thin, with silver skin and large blue eyes. Their ship was held together with metal patches and wire. It should not have been able to fly at all. They keep saying one word, reported Dr. Kim, the colony's medical officer. Veltar. We think it might be a name. Ji-hoon walked through the temporary medical center they had set up in the community hall. The aliens lay on stretchers, being treated by human doctors who had never seen their species before. Most were unconscious, but a few watched the humans, with something like wonder in their eyes. One alien near the back was awake and alert. When Ji-hoon approached, the creature struggled to sit up. You help us, the alien said in broken standard. We are Zentari. I am Veltar. Ji-hoon pulled up a chair. You are safe now. What happened to your ship? Veltar's blue eyes filled with tears that looked just like human tears. We run from dead places. Council leave us to die. The barriers, Ji-hoon said. You came from inside the quarantine zones. Yes. Veltar gripped Ji-hoon's arm with surprising strength. But barriers no work. Void sickness still spread, still kill. Council worlds start to die too. Ji-hoon felt ice in his stomach. The barriers are failing? Not failing. Never work. Void sickness not like normal disease. It moved through space itself. Through quantum foam. Energy walls cannot stop. Over. The next few days, more refugee ships arrived. They came from all directions, carrying survivors from a dozen different species. Each ship was worse than the last. Some were just escape pods held together with emergency foam. Others were civilian transports never meant for long journeys. So Young arrived from Earth with a military escort. As the regional defense commander, she was responsible for protecting human space from any threats. But looking at the refugees, she found it hard to see them as dangerous. They are not carrying weapons, she reported to Earth Command. Most of them are scientists, teachers, families with children. They just want somewhere safe to live. The response from Earth was not encouraging. Monitor the situation. Do not let alien refugees establish permanent settlements. We cannot risk contamination from the void sickness. So Young understood the caution, but it felt wrong. These people had lost everything. Their worlds were dead or dying. The Great Galactic Council had abandoned them. Now humans were supposed to turn them away too? The breakthrough came when Dong Hyun arrived to study the refugee ships. As a human engineer, he was fascinated by alien technology. But what he found confused him. These ships should not be able to travel faster than light. He told Ji-hoon, "The engines are all wrong. They are using some kind of modified jump drive that I have never seen before." Veltar overheard them talking. "May I explain?" Dong-hyun looked surprised. Most aliens treated humans like children when it came to technology. "Please." "Normal jump drives use stable quantum tunnels," Veltar said. "Very efficient, very safe. But void sickness spread through stable quantum space. We had to improvise." "Improvise how?" "We make drives that use unstable tunnels, chaotic jumps, very dangerous, but void sickness cannot follow. It needs stability to spread." Dong Hyun stared at the alien. "You are telling me that the void sickness spreads through the same quantum space that your advanced technology uses?" "Yes. That's why Council cannot stop it. All our technology based on quantum stability. Very efficient, very advanced. But against this weapon, it make us vulnerable." More refugees arrived every day, and with them came more pieces of the puzzle. The void sickness was not a disease at all. It was a weapon created by an extinct civilization called the Architects. Nobody knew exactly why they had built it, but one thing was clear. They had designed it specifically to target advanced galactic civilizations. "The weapon reads quantum signatures," explained Kelnara, a former Council researcher who had escaped from the planet Proxima 7. "It targets species that have achieved perfect genetic stability and advanced quantum technology. The more advanced you are, the more vulnerable you become." So Young was in the middle of a security briefing when the implications hit her. Wait. If this weapon targets advanced, stable civilizations, what about primitive ones? "What do you mean?" asked Ji-hoon. "I mean species that have not achieved perfect genetic stability. Species that still have chaos and randomness in their development. Species like..." She paused. "Like humans." The refugee camps fell silent. Aliens who had traveled across the galaxy looked at the humans with new understanding. For the first time in galactic history, being primitive might be an advantage. Veltar spoke first. "You think humans might be immune?" "I do not know," So Young admitted. "But we have been in contact with refugee ships for weeks, and no human has gotten sick. Our quantum technology is still basic compared to yours. Our genetics are still chaotic and diverse." That night, Ji-hoon received an urgent message from Earth. Long-range sensors had detected massive energy signatures near the galactic core. Council worlds were going dark one by one. The barriers had not only failed to stop the void sickness, they had given it time to spread unchecked. The next morning brought the message that changed everything. It came through official council channels transmitted on all frequencies. The message was simple and devastating. "To all surviving civilizations, the Galactic Council formally requests assistance in combating the void sickness. Previous containment efforts have failed. The council worlds of Altair Prime, Vega Station, and Core Command have been evacuated. Any species with resistance to the void sickness is asked to share their knowledge immediately. Ji-hoon read the message 3 times before he understood what it really meant. The same aliens who had refused human membership in their council were now begging humans for help. The species they had called primitive and uncivilized might be their only hope. In the refugee camps, aliens who had never spoken to humans as equals now looked at them with desperate hope. Children who had lost their worlds played with human. Children, learning that kindness did not require advanced technology. Veltar found Ji-hoon that evening, sitting alone and watching the sunset. Your people will help us?" Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. "I think so. Humans are not perfect, but we do not abandon people who need help. Even after Council rejected you? Even after we called you primitive?" "Especially then," Ji-hoon said. "Maybe being primitive is not so bad after all." The galaxy was dying, but for the first time in months, there was hope. It came not from the advanced aliens with their perfect technology, but from the chaotic, primitive humans who refused to give up on anyone. Minho stared at the data for the 100th time that week. Numbers covered every screen in his laboratory on Earth, showing quantum readings from the dead zones. The refugee ships had brought more than just survivors. They had brought information about the void sickness that no human had ever seen before. "It makes no sense," he muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. "The weapon targets quantum stability, but then it should be easy to defeat. Just introduce chaos into the system." His research partner, Dr. Yoon-ji, looked up from her biological samples. She had been studying tissue from infected plants that the refugees had brought. "Maybe that is exactly what we need to do." "What do you mean?" "Look at this," Yoon-ji said, pointing to her microscope display. This plant tissue came from a world that was 90% consumed by the void sickness. But see these cells here? They are still alive, still fighting the infection. Minho walked over to look. The plant cells showed something strange. While most of the tissue was dead and gray, small clusters of cells were still green and healthy. More importantly, these surviving cells looked different from normal plant cells. "Their DNA is all wrong," Yoon-ji continued. "It is full of random mutations, genetic chaos. Nothing like the perfect, stable organisms that advanced civilizations create." "Chaos," Minho said slowly. "The weapon cannot handle true randomness." They worked through the night, combining quantum physics with biology. The void sickness was like a computer virus, but for reality itself. It rewrote the quantum code that held matter together, turning complex systems into simple, dead arrangements. But like any virus, it needed predictable patterns to work. The architects were brilliant, Minho realized. They knew that advanced civilizations always move toward perfection and stability, so they created a weapon that used that perfection against them. But humans never achieved that kind of perfection, Yoon-ji added. "We are still chaotic, still random. Our technology is messy and inefficient. Our genetics are full of diversity and mutation. And that might save us all." The next morning, they called in Jae-sung, a former military strategist who had been studying the tactical aspects of the void sickness. He listened to their theory with growing excitement. "So you are saying the weapon is like a lock?" Jae-sung said. "It can only open doors that fit a specific pattern. Advanced, stable civilizations are the right shape, but primitive, chaotic ones are the wrong shape entirely." "Exactly," Minho confirmed. "But more than that, we think we can create a key that jams the lock permanently." They called their invention the Chaos Field Generator. It was based on human quantum technology, which was already naturally unstable compared to alien systems. But they pushed it further, creating a device that could introduce controlled randomness into any quantum system. The first test was on a small sample of infected material from a dead alien world. Veltar and several other refugee scientists watched as the humans activated their device. The infected sample glowed red with the characteristic energy of the void sickness. Then Minho switched on the Chaos Field Generator. The red glow flickered. The infected material began to change, quantum patterns shifting rapidly. Within minutes, the red energy faded completely. The dead matter began to show signs of quantum activity again. "Impossible," whispered Kelnara. Nothing can reverse the void sickness. Human technology can, Yunji said simply, because human technology was never perfect to begin with. Word of the successful test spread quickly through human space. Earth Command authorized the construction of larger chaos field generators, while human engineers worked with refugee scientists to understand exactly how the weapon functioned. The Wadi aliens brought knowledge of quantum mechanics that humans were still learning. Humans brought the chaotic thinking that aliens had lost in their pursuit of perfection. Together, they began to develop strategies that neither could have created alone. The weapon has a range limit, reported Dr. Park, who was analyzing the spread patterns. It can only affect matter within about 10 light-years of its current position. Beyond that, it needs time to establish new quantum connections. Like an infection, Jae-sung realized. It spreads from system to system, but it needs a foothold in each area. That means if we can break its connection to an area, we might be able to stop it permanently, Minho added. They designed a new plan. Large chaos field generators would be mounted on fast human ships. These ships would enter the dead zones and deploy the generators near the weapon's quantum foundations. The chaotic fields would disrupt the weapon's ability to maintain its grip on reality. But there was a problem. The dead zones were still sealed by the Council's quantum barriers. Any ship trying to enter would be destroyed by the energy walls. That was when Donghyun proposed the most audacious part of the plan. We do not go through the barriers, he said. We go around them. Around them? They surround the entire dead zone. Not through normal space, Donghyun explained. We use the same technique the refugees used to escape. Chaotic jumps through unstable quantum tunnels. The barriers are designed to stop stable technology, not chaotic human systems. The plan was incredibly dangerous. Chaotic jumps were unpredictable by definition. Ships could end up anywhere or nowhere at all. But it was the only way to reach the source of the void sickness. Meanwhile, the situation in the galaxy was getting worse. More council worlds went dark every day. The remaining alien governments sent desperate messages to Earth, offering technology, territory, and membership in exchange for help. Nari found herself in the strange position of negotiating with the same aliens who had rejected humanity just months before. Now they called her ambassador and asked for her advice on everything, from military strategy to refugee management. We know we have made mistakes, admitted the council speaker during one emergency meeting. We acted out of fear instead of wisdom. We abandoned those who needed help most. But humanity has shown us a different path. What path is that? Nari asked. The path of hope. You have not given up on the galaxy even after we gave up on you. You are still trying to save everyone, including us. The final preparations for the mission into the dead zones took weeks. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to build the most advanced chaos field generators ever created. The generators were loaded onto the fastest human ships, crewed by volunteers who understood they might not come back. But as the fleet prepared to launch, something unexpected happened. Alien refugees began volunteering for the mission. Veltar was among the first. This is my world they destroyed, he told Captain Wu Jin, who would lead the mission. I want to be there when we take it back. Others followed. Scientists, engineers, even former council members who wanted to undo the damage they had helped cause. The human fleet became a truly galactic force, united not by politics or species, but by the simple desire to save lives. On the day of the launch, Minho stood in the control center watching the ships disappear into chaotic quantum jumps. Each jump was a leap of faith, trusting human technology to work where alien perfection had failed. Think it will work? Asked Yunji. Minho smiled. It is a human plan executed with alien knowledge, powered by controlled chaos and driven by hope. If that cannot save the galaxy, nothing can. The ships vanished into the quantum foam, carrying with them the first real hope the galaxy had known in months. Behind them, the barriers still glowed red against the stars. But for the first time, those barriers looked less like walls and more like the borders of a problem waiting to be solved. The ancient dawn tumbled out of the chaotic quantum jump like a leaf in a hurricane. Captain Wu Jin gripped his command chair as the ship's gravity systems struggled to compensate for the violent arrival. Around him, his mixed crew of humans and aliens worked frantically to stabilize their position. "Navigation, where are we?" Wu Jin called out. Hanyul, the ship's chief scientist, checked her readings. "We are in the Kepler 442 system, sir, right where we wanted to be." Wu Jin looked at the main display and felt his heart sink. Kepler 442 had once been home to 30 billion mollusks. Their floating cities had been famous across the galaxy for their beautiful crystal spires and singing gardens. Now the system was dark and silent. "The planet is still there," reported Kyung-Soo from the communication station, "but I am not reading any life signs. The atmosphere is wrong, too thin, too cold." Through the view screen they could see Malus Prime hanging in space like a gray marble. No lights twinkled on the dark side. No orbital stations reflected sunlight. The void sickness had turned a living world into a tomb. "Beginning sensor sweep for the weapon's quantum signature," Hanyul announced. Her instruments were a hybrid of human and alien technology, designed to detect the specific energy patterns the void sickness used to spread. Veltar floated near the science station in a life support suit designed for his species. "The signature will be strongest near population centers. The weapon feeds on complex quantum structures, cities, technology, living minds." "There," Hanyul pointed at her display. "I am getting massive quantum distortions from the northern continent. That was where the capital city used to be." The Incheon Dawn moved slowly through the dead system. Other ships from the human fleet had jumped to different dead worlds, each carrying their own chaos field generators. The plan was to test the technology simultaneously across multiple systems, then share the results. As they approached Malus Prime, the horror of the void sickness became clear. The planet's surface was covered in gray dust that had once been forests, cities, and people. The great crystal spires of the capital lay shattered like broken glass. Even the oceans looked wrong. Their water turned to a thick, lifeless gel. "How long ago did this happen?" asked Ensign Mira, a young human on her first deep space mission. 3 months, Veltar replied quietly. 3 months ago, this world had more artists and poets than the rest of the galaxy combined. Now we bring it back," Wu Jin said firmly. "Hanyul, are we ready to deploy the chaos field generator?" "Generator is online and ready, sir. The alien technology is interfacing perfectly with our chaotic quantum core. We should be able to project a field covering the entire capital region." "Do it." The chaos field generator hummed to life. It was a strange device, part human engineering and part alien science. Where alien technology sought perfection and stability, the generator deliberately introduced randomness and uncertainty. It was like fighting fire with controlled explosions. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Energy rippled out from the Incheon Dawn in waves of shifting color. When the chaotic energy reached the planet's surface, the gray dust began to shimmer and change. The thick, dead ocean started to flow again. "It is working," Hanyul shouted. "The quantum readings are shifting from static patterns to dynamic ones. The void sickness is losing its grip on the matter structure." On the surface below, something incredible was happening. Plants began to grow from the gray dust, their leaves bright green against the dead landscape. Water started to flow in dried riverbeds. Even the air itself seemed to sparkle with returning life. But then the alarm started screaming. "Contact!" Kyung-Soo yelled. Multiple unknown vessels approaching fast from the outer system. The main display showed 3 sleek black ships moving toward them at impossible speed. They did not match any known alien design. Their hulls seemed to absorb light, making them hard to see against the stars. "Are they architect ships?" Wu Jin asked. "Unknown," Hanyul replied, scanning the approaching vessels. "They are not showing any quantum signatures that match living technology. I think they might be automated." "Defense systems?" "Definitely. Look at their weapon configurations. The black ships opened fire without warning. Beams of red energy lanced across space, striking the Incheon Dawn shields. The ship shook violently as the defensive barriers overloaded. They are using the same energy signature as the Void Sickness, Hanyul reported. Their weapons are designed to break down quantum structures, just like the weapon that killed this world, Veltar realized. The architects left guardians behind to protect their creation. The automated ships pressed their attack. Their weapons were devastating against normal matter, designed to unravel the quantum bonds that held atoms together. Against human chaotic shields, however, they were less effective. The random nature of human defensive technology confused the architect targeting systems. "Return fire," Wu Jin ordered. The Incheon Dawn's weapons were also a hybrid design. Human particle beams combined with alien targeting systems created a devastating combination. The chaotic nature of human weapons made them unpredictable, while alien precision made them accurate. The first architect ship took multiple hits and began to break apart. But the other two adapted quickly, changing their attack patterns to compensate for the human ship's unusual defenses. "Sir, we have a problem," Kyung-soo announced. "I am detecting more ships launching from hidden bases throughout the system. Dozens of them," Wu Jin cursed. The architects had left an entire fleet to guard their weapon. The Incheon Dawn was fast and well armed, but it could not fight an entire automated army. "Hanyul, how long do we need to keep the chaos field active?" "At least another hour to fully reverse the void sickness on this world. But sir, I do not think we can hold out that long against so many ships." That was when Kyung-soo picked up a transmission from the other human ships scattered across the dead zones. "Captain, the other test sites are reporting similar automated defenses, but they also report success with their chaos field generators. The weapon can be defeated." "Good. Send a message to the fleet. Mission accomplished. The technology works. But warn them about the architect defenses." The battle continued as more automated ships joined the fight. The Incheon Dawn danced through space, using its chaotic jump drive to make random micro-jumps that confused the enemy targeting systems. But there were too many attackers, and the ship's shields were failing. "Sir, we need to leave," Hanyul urged. "The chaos field has done enough work. The planet will continue to heal even without our direct intervention." "Prepare for emergency jump," Wu Jin ordered. "Random vector maximum chaos." The Incheon Dawn gathered energy for a chaotic quantum jump. Around them, the architect ships closed in, their red energy beams reaching out like deadly fingers. At the last second, the human ship vanished into the quantum foam, leaving the automated defenders with nothing to shoot at. They emerged near the edge of the system, battered but intact. Behind them, Malus Prime continued to heal. Green patches were spreading across the gray continents. The dead oceans sparkled with returning life. For the first time in months, the world showed signs of hope. "Did we do it?" asked Ensign Mira, who had never seen a planet come back from the dead before. "We proved it can be done," Wu Jin replied. "But now we know the real challenge. The architects did not just create a weapon, they created an army to protect it." Messages began coming in from the other test ships. All reported similar results. The chaos field generators worked perfectly, but every dead world was guarded by automated defenses. The galaxy could be saved, but it would require the largest military operation in galactic history. As the Incheon Dawn began its journey back to human space, Hanyul compiled her scientific data. The results were clear and encouraging. Human technology could reverse the void sickness completely. Plants grew, water flowed, and even the planet's atmosphere was beginning to repair itself. "How is this possible?" Veltar asked, studying the readings. "Our greatest scientists could not even slow the weapon down." "Because your greatest scientists were thinking like the architects," Hanyul explained. "They were looking for perfect solutions to a perfect weapon, but the weapon is not perfect, it has a weakness." "What weakness?" "It cannot handle true chaos." The architects were so focused on creating something that could destroy advanced civilizations that they forgot about primitive ones. They made their weapon too smart, too perfect, and perfect things break when you hit them with enough randomness. Kyung-soo looked up from his communications console. "Sir, I am receiving a priority message from Earth Command. The Galactic Council is requesting an immediate meeting with all human representatives. They want to know what we discovered." Wu Jin smiled grimly. Tell them we discovered hope. But also tell them that hope is going to require one hell of a fight. The test was over. Humanity had proven that the galaxy could be saved. Now came the hard part. Actually saving it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked very different from the last time Nari had attended. Half the seats were empty, their occupants either dead or evacuated from dying worlds. The remaining aliens sat in desperate silence as she presented humanity's findings. The chaos field generators work, Nari reported to the assembled delegates. We have successfully reversed the void sickness on 12 different worlds. Plant life is returning, atmospheres are healing, and quantum structures are stabilizing. In healthy patterns. The council speaker's blue skin had turned pale gray with stress. And the cost of this salvation? Every dead world is guarded by automated architect ships. Hundreds of them per system. Our test fleet barely escaped, and they were only deploying small generators on single planets. To cleanse the entire dead zone will require a massive military operation. An insect-like delegate clicked its mandibles nervously. How massive? Insu, who had become humanity's chief negotiator, stood up to answer. Our military analysts estimate we will need at least 1,000 ships, half of them equipped with chaos field generators. The operation will take years and cost billions of credits. Impossible, stated the floating jellyfish creature. The Council's remaining fleets number less than 300 ships. Our economies are collapsing as we evacuate world after world. Then you need human help, Nari said simply. The chamber fell silent. The words hung in the air like a challenge. These same aliens had refused Humanity Council membership just 6 months ago. They had called humans primitive, uncivilized, not ready for galactic society. Now they needed human technology, human ships, and human lives to save their civilization. The council speaker finally spoke. What would humanity require in exchange for this assistance? Admiral Ye-Jin stepped forward. She commanded the rapidly expanding human fleet, built from converted cargo ships and mining vessels retrofitted with alien technology donated by refugees. Full membership in the Galactic Council, with voting rights equal to any founding species. Granted, the speaker said immediately. Territorial rights to any worlds we help cleanse from the void sickness. Granted. Access to all Council scientific databases and technology archives. Granted. Ye-Jin paused, looking around the chamber at the desperate alien faces. And a formal apology to every human who was ever told they were not good enough for galactic civilization. That request caused murmurs throughout the chamber. Some aliens looked offended at the suggestion that they should apologize to primitives. Others looked ashamed. The council speaker stood slowly. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize to humanity for our short-sightedness, our arrogance, and our failure to recognize your worth. We judged you by our standards instead of your achievements. We saw chaos where we should have seen strength. It was not enough to undo centuries of dismissal, but it was a start. The real negotiations began immediately. Human shipyards went into overdrive, building vessels specifically designed for chaos field operations. Alien refugees worked alongside human engineers, combining technologies that had never been merged before. Sok-Jin found himself managing the complex politics of species that had never cooperated as equals. Former council members who had ruled the galaxy for millennia now sat in meetings with human colonists and alien refugees, all working toward the same desperate goal. The Zentari have offered their quantum calculation technology, Sok-Jin reported during one planning session. Combined with human chaos generators, we can create field projectors 3 times more powerful than the prototypes. What about the Mollusk survivors? Asked Ye-Jin. Their crystal technology might be useful for focusing the chaos fields. They are eager to help, especially since we chose their homeworld for the first test. They want to be part of the fleet that liberates their people. But not all aliens were willing to accept the new reality. A faction of surviving council members, led by a species called the Corvin, insisted that accepting human leadership was a mistake. These primitives got lucky, declared the Corvin representative during one heated debate. Their crude technology happened to work against this particular weapon. That does not make them our equals. Nari had learned to deal with such attitudes during her years trying to gain council membership. With respect, Counselor, our crude technology is the only thing standing between your species and extinction. If you would prefer to handle this crisis using traditional council methods, you are welcome to try. The Corvin fell silent. Traditional council methods had already failed spectacularly. Meanwhile, the void sickness continued to spread. 3. More council worlds went dark during the negotiations. Long-range sensors detected the weapon expanding beyond the original dead zones, consuming systems that should have been safe behind the quantum barriers. The barriers are not just failing, reported Dr. Park from Earth's research station. They are making things worse. The quantum energy from the barriers is actually feeding the weapon, making it stronger. How long before it reaches the core worlds? Asked Seok Jin. At current expansion rate? 6 months. Maybe less. The timeline forced everyone to move faster. Political debates that might have taken years were settled in days. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves working side by side. The galaxy had never been so united, and it had taken the threat of total extinction to make it happen. The human fleet grew daily as more ships were completed and equipped, but the real strength came from the volunteers. Aliens from every surviving species wanted to join the liberation effort. They brought knowledge, technology, and most importantly, hope that their worlds could be saved. Veltar had become something of a symbol among the refugees. His people, the Zentari, had been among the first abandoned by the Council. Now he served as science officer on the flagship of the Liberation Fleet, working with human and alien crews who treated him as an equal. It is strange, he told Nari, during a quiet moment between planning sessions. For centuries, the Council spoke of unity and cooperation, but we only achieved it when humans showed us how. How did we do that? By refusing to abandon anyone. When the Council gave up on the dead zones, humans took in the refugees. When the barriers failed, humans offered solutions. When hope seemed lost, humans kept fighting. The final fleet composition was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human. Ships with their chaotic technology worked alongside alien vessels equipped with precision targeting systems. Refugee crews who had lost everything flew next to Council survivors who had sacrificed their privileged positions to help. But the most important ships were the new Chaos Field Cruisers, built specifically for the Liberation mission. These vessels combined the best of human and alien engineering, creating something entirely new. They were fast enough to outrun Architect defenders, tough enough to survive in dead space, and powerful enough to cleanse entire star systems. As the fleet prepared for departure, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Refugees offered prayers in 100 different languages. Scientists shared last-minute improvements to the Chaos Field technology. Military commanders coordinated supply lines across species barriers. The night before the mission launched, Insu stood on the observation deck of the command ship, looking out at the assembled fleet. Nearly 2,000 vessels floated in formation, their running lights creating a constellation of hope against the dark. "Think we can do it?" asked Yejin, joining him at the viewport. 6 months ago, the galaxy's most advanced civilizations could not even slow this weapon down, Insu replied. Now we have a fleet of primitives and refugees planning to destroy it completely. If that is not a miracle, I do not know what is. Maybe that is what the galaxy needed, Yejin said. Not a miracle, but a reminder that advanced does not always mean better. Sometimes the best solutions come from the people everyone underestimates. The Liberation Fleet departed the next morning, carrying with it the hopes of an entire galaxy. Behind them, the remaining Council worlds prepared for either salvation or final evacuation. Ahead lay the dead zones where automated guardians waited to protect their ancient weapon. But for the first time since the crisis began, the galaxy faced its greatest threat, not as separate species competing for survival, but as a unified civilization, determined to save everyone. And at the center of that unity were the humans, the species that everyone had once called too primitive to matter. The galaxy was about to learn what primitive really meant.